Last time on A Soldier's Life. I barely remember. It has been a while. I don't remember what happened last time. All I do remember, though, is that we dream walked with Castile and we didn't dream walk with Delmar, maybe? Someone. One of the higher ups with Castile because he doesn't have any other. So that was sad. Yes, it says Delmar on screen. It was Delmar. So no, he had to just cuck share while Eric and Castile dreamt a bit together and made some books and give her a headache. Then someone died last time. I remember someone died, some NPC. I remember I was scared, and then when they said the name, I'm like, who? Who is this? So I definitely do not remember. I know that the mage guy is a wolf and he's after us, like stalking and fucking up some elemental or some shit. So that we're stuck in this ghost town now. So we're going to go dungeon. We're going into a dungeon, I think now. Because everyone is also like depressed and there's some weird like thing happening with everyone. Eric thinks everyone is more like depressed and just out of it. So a dungeon is gonna help. Yay! So we can get out because we're blocked in by snow. Who character? I feel like it was a young person. Like it was like, oh no, like it was like like it was like, oh, but he was only, I don't know, 22 or something. It's been so long. How do I read? And Goliath is the first word I have to say. Okay. Chapter 136. Goliath Therapy. I returned to my room, stirred the coals in the fireplace, and added some boards to liven up the fire. Once the fire was going again, I laid out on the black desk. Maybe it stirred. Eric, is everything all right? He tried to whisper, but his baritone was still fairly loud. Yes, Castile used the amulet tonight. I thought for a moment, then whispered. Maybe you have a spell form, right? Then he can also enter. Can you direct the ether in your core? My spell form is weak. I can turn rock into clay for a brief time before it turns back to rock. But yes, I have enough awareness of my ether core to manipulate the ether. He grumbled in a softer voice, aware of how loud he was. I produced the amulet. Maybe I'm going to enter the dreamscape amulet first. You can touch it and channel ether into it after, I offered. What? He's willingly like, come into my dreamscape, Mavius. I mean, he does love Mavius, though. I'm not interested in using your amulet. Oi, Mavius replied. Felix stirred and mumbled something about us being quieter. Just trust me, Mavius. The city is doing something to us, and this will counter it, I said pleadingly. All right, he said, after a thoughtful pause. Mavius appeared in the dungeon entry room shortly after me. He immediately started spinning about, curious. He then looked at his hands and flexed them. Everything looks so real, he said in awe. His voice was back to his normal intrusive volume. I started to explain. The city is preventing us from dreaming, so even though everyone is sleeping, they are not getting any mental recovery. This amulet space allows you to dream because it is a dreamscape. My explanation sounded weak, but maybe it nodded as if it had made complete sense. I thought it did as well. I did the same thing I did for Castile and created a spread of food on the table. It is not real, but still tastes good. I motioned for him to help himself. Mavius was too wide for the chair, so I created a bench for him, and he jumped when it appeared under him. I laughed. Mavius, it is just a bench. You can create anything or anyone you ever knew here. However, you might suffer a slight headache when you leave, depending on how many things you create. Or maybe it has to do with complexity. I am still learning how the artifact works. Maybe it seemed to consider and created a massive tray of some type of pasta dish. He tentatively tasted it and then smiled. It tastes just like I remember it. Oh. Maybe it put some on a plate and offered it to me. I tried it, and the dish was mostly bland, with some pungent chunks of cheese and a thick, oily sauce. It is good, I offered my filtered opinion to the Goliath. It was all fake, but my taste buds still had me salivating. Maybe it started eating everything on the table, and I just watched him for a bit. We will leave after 5 hours and see if you are any better. Nothing is wrong with me, Eric, he said while ripping meat off a large turkey leg with his teeth. I did not want to explain depression and irritability from lack of sleep to the Goliath, so I just let him eat. Best believed. Hell yeah. After we finished getting his fill of the food and asking a dozen questions about what things were on the table, we moved into the Ankeg chamber. Do you want to fight a monster? No. I willed one of the two giant crawfish-like creatures to surface, and maybe it jumped back, unconsciously materializing his club in his hand. It took maybe it some time to calm down. I do not know why you would want to fight monsters in here. Yeah, exactly, because you do that outside. I understand the training part. For Eric, I understand it. Like, he needs it, okay? Like, he needs to get better to survive. But, you can... Maybe it stopped talking and was focused intently behind me. I turned to see an obviously feminine Goliath. Maybe it just stared as I studied her. Her gray skin, bald head, and emerald eyes reminded me of Mavian. She was shorter than him at only about 6'8", compared to Mavian's 7'6" frame, and had a leaner upper body and feminine chest with a muscular build. She spoke. Brother, why did you not help us? Oh my god, is this therapy? What is happening? The orcs killed me and took Myra. Shit. Maybe its guilt was imprinted on his manifestation of his sister. Oy, oy, oy. I focused, taking control of the female Goliath, and directed its speech. I forgive you, brother. Oh my, I feel like this is... No, Eric, you can't do this. I mean... Oh, this is so wrong. Oh, I mean, he probably needs to hear this, but it's like... Oh, hey, I don't know. You could not have done anything to stop it, and they would have killed you if you had intervened. I mean, it's all true, but... Oh... I'm scared for maybe its sanity. Maybe it was tearing up and sobbing. You do not know that, Sarana. I might have been able to turn the tide and get you to a healer in the village. Let it go, Maviant, she reasserted. I had the female Goliath move into him and hug him. Oh my god. Oh, I feel like it's so fucked that Eric is like... Eric is not a therapist, okay? And that he's doing this. It's fucked. Even though if it's a nice thought, it's just, oh. Maybe its massive body was suddenly racked with heaving sobs as he squeezed his sister tight. I could not stop tears of my own from being released at the scene. Oh. I let him have a bit of private time with her and returned to the entry room to do a bit of studying. I could hear the two of them talking, both with deep baritones. Eventually, Maviat came back to the entry room. Thank you, Eric. I know it was not real, but I missed her so much. I got a chance to say goodbye. Maviat's eyes were puffy, which made little sense in here, unless he wanted it like that. He doesn't know that. I walked back into the Ankeg room to find Serana studying the creature. I sent her to the room to play with Oscar and the others. When Maviat saw she was gone, he just nodded. I think I would like to kill some monsters, Eric. Can you dream up some orcs? I never met an orc. I think you should do it, I replied, as orc after orc materialized in the first Ankeg room. Someone's gonna have a headache. After the 7th orc appeared, they stopped. 3 of the orcs had nets, so I assumed these were the orcs that had killed his sister. They generally fell in line with what I imagined the race looked like, except they appeared civilized. They wore tailored clothes under their armor and had unblemished skin and well-trimmed hair. No, you're not allowed to torture yourself and create a mental prison to entrap yourself in a perpetual circle forever. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Maybe it entered the fight before me, and but I always also like how. Okay, are we mentioning how racist Eric was towards the orcs here? It's like, wow, they looked actually civilized. They had nice hair. It's like you've never met an orc. He can't even materialize an orc. He has no idea what he looks like. Yo, Mavieth entered the fight before me, and I got to see a side of Mavieth that I had never seen before. Oh, this is where Eric is like, maybe we're not friends anymore. He was a violent and powerful Goliath who ignored wounds to his body to get a killing blow on his foe. The orcs were mildly decent swordsmen, but not a challenge for me unless I got netted. Netted. I only needed to use a single air shield to avoid the nets, and they never reached me. We killed the 7 orcs 3 times before Mavieth's lust for vengeance was finally satiated. I can now see why you would want to practice your fighting skills here. Maybe we can do this again sometime. His voice rang with satisfaction. It has been about 6 hours, so let's get some breakfast and see what Castile wants to do. We exited the dreamscape and I found Mavieth's hand on my chest. Alright, because he has to touch the amulet, reaching up from his position on the floor to grasp the amulet. Benito was standing over me. Eric, I am hurt. You let the big man into your dreams but wouldn't let me? I am much more fun than him. I sat up, working the kinks out of my back. Mavieth has control over his ether and can activate the amulet. Besides, Benito, who says you do not already haunt my dreams? I teased Benito. Benito gave me a confused and dubious look. He shook his head, giving up on puzzling it out. Castile wants to see you, Eric. Bet you and her are going to have fancy dreams together too. Benito's voice was slightly harsh and accusatory, lacking his normal joviality. Whatever it was, everyone was on edge. Wow, even Benito? What the fuck? I knocked and walked in on Castile and Adrian. Wait, what? Oh, huh? I knocked and walked in on Castile and Adrian. Talking quietly. Okay. Delmar is leading a trip for firewood. Did the Goliath succeed? Wouldn't that have been crazy? You walk in on Castile and Adrian, and Benito is like, Castile wants to see you now. Castile's like, yeah, of course, this is what I wanted to happen. Did the Goliath succeed? Castile asked pointedly. Mavieth was able to use it. I think it helped him. I replied to Castile's nod. Good. I have a plan. There is a spell called Nightmare. It is an advanced form of the sleep spell, but it is the only spell I reviewed while at the Mage College that forces the target into a dream state. I want to borrow your amulet to learn it. Castile looked at me expectantly. I produced the amulet and handed it to her without pause. Wow. Adrian added, Eric, if you have any food stored away, now would be a suitable time to share. The men are fraying from hunger and exhaustion, and I fear we may see serious fighting soon. I looked at Castile, who had a blank expression. She had obviously told him I had reserves. Uh-huh. I placed 14 meal bars on the desk. His eyes went wide. Anything else? Well, I produced a small, wrapped bundle of food from when I had left Legionnaire training. I had never touched it. There were maybe 8 or 9 pounds of food in that bundle. Adrian carefully went through it, frowning the entire time. I could tell he realized how long I had the food, as it had date stamps from the Legion training camp on the items. I was clearly revealing my abilities to him, but Castile said he could be trusted, so I decided to trust him as well, if only a little more. Yeah, okay. I was just as thin as everyone else, so I was obviously not partaking in the food. He did not ask if I had any more. He just mumbled that Delmar was going to accuse me of hoarding food. It was the only thing that made sense when food just appeared out of nowhere. Adrian finally said unhappily, 3 more days of food here for the company. Welcome, but not enough to make a huge difference. I produced a large 3-gallon jar of honey on the desk. Adrian's eyebrows went up as the jar was obviously bigger than my space, as he knew it. He opened it and tasted crystals. Honey, I nodded. Another 3 days, he said. They're gonna eat honey for 3 days. I mean, if you don't have anything else, but you know. He said, expecting me to produce more. I shrugged, indicating that was it. I still had 20 gallons of rum and whiskey, along with about 30 ration bars, the 2 backpacks from the Griffin Rider and Summoner that probably had some food in them as well, but I would hold that in reserve for now. Imagine if you took all that out. Imagine. Castile seemed to consider. If I spend all day in the Dreamscape amulet, I might be able to learn the nightmare spell in a week if Fortuna's favors me. It is a difficult spell, but the amulet does focus your efforts, allowing for faster learning. We need to keep clearing the specters from the lower layers, Castile. Right, they're specters. I forgot. Adrian pronounced in a clearly scripted speech. Castile tapped a kettle of souls on the desk, a small smile on her face. It is similar to a normal collector, Eric. Oh. You aim the artifact at the disrupted body and push your ether into the device. It will feel slightly wrong as it pulls in the death essence, but that is normal. Of course Eric has to do it. I did not like where this was going. What if we encounter another white, or something more dangerous? Constantine, Adrian, Blaze, and Brutus will go with you. Just work the periphery of the complex for now. She held up the amulet. I think this is more important for the moment. After my own time in the dreamscape, I can sense some of the men are on the verge of breaking. Adrian offered a weak, haggard smile. The good news is the elven wine appears viable, Eric. Most of our descents will focus on recovering as many bottles as we can. How is this going to be explained? I gestured at the honey and food. I will take responsibility, and we will dole it out slowly, Castile said. We are lucky you had it, Eric. I winced, remembering I had given away a few weeks of food just before we left to the old women who ran the herbalist shop in Sobral. It was not the first time I had lamented that decision. Delmar entered the room in a huff. The men are getting lazy, not carrying up a full load of shelving to burn. He noticed me and asked tersely, "What is he doing here?" He noticed the food. I told you he was hoarding food. Castile waved her hand and snapped her fingers. I told him to, Delmar. Snapped her fingers. Delmar. Figure out how to stretch this. She indicated everything. He was still clearly upset. I left them to get my breakfast of broth and rice. As I sat down next to Mavieth, he looked down at me, showing a smile for the first time since we got trapped in the city. Oh, Eric, do you want to play a game of checkers? He's back. He is back. Oh, yeah, he's back. Hell yeah. Oh. Chapter 137. The Kettle Bearer. Eric turns British. I was okay with temporarily giving up my Dreamscape amulet, since I knew I was not getting out of here alone. Castile was probably our best chance if we had to confront the summoner or eventually enter the dungeon, and for that it was worth. For what it was worth, I trusted her. The temperature remained frigid outside, and the snow depth had not decreased, making it unlikely we would be walking out of the city anytime soon. After losing 2 games of checkers to an improved and somewhat smiling Mavian, I returned to my room with Matteo and Felix. Matteo was giving me the stink eye, so I offered. Castile has the amulet. Maybe she will let you try to use it. His eyes looked hopeful for a moment and then fell. Maybe after this mess. Is the wine giving you the squirts too? The squirts? Shitting? What? What? I was caught off guard and confused by the sudden change in conversation. Extremely so. What the fuck is wrong with you? Felix looked over and clarified for me. Some of us have been squirting out the arse after drinking the wine. What is happening? What did we come back to? What the fuck is happening? I haven't never ever heard someone referring to fucking diarrhea as squirting out the ass. That's crazy. That's crazy. What the fuck is happening? Oh, okay. This is the world we live in now. Yeah, of course. It is not poisonous, Constantine said from the archway. Most likely it is because you are not getting enough solid food. He directed his attention to me. Castile said you are to start making the spectre culling runs and bringing up more of the wine. Yay. Yes, I am to take the kettle of souls and use it in Castile's stead while she works on solving another problem, I answered him. Looking at Constantine more closely, it seemed like he had aged 10 years in the last week. Good. Get it, and we can begin now. Brutus, Blaze, and Adrian are with us. I nodded. I will collect them and meet you at the stairs. I soon had the brass kettle in my hands. Castile had emptied the crystallized death essence into a bag, so it was currently empty. Isn't that crazy? Just that sentence. Castile had emptied the crystallized death essence into a bag. I was like, okay. I turned it over under the light of a glowstone. Glowstone. Blaze was carrying beside me. The runic writing was on the inside of the device, and I could not make it out very well. Do not damage that, Eric. It is the only thing that is giving us a chance to get out of here, Adrian said from behind me. I nodded, stopped trying to inspect it, and get a better grip on the device. We all followed closely behind Constantine, who turned in the corridor and opened a large door. The door creaked ominously, and light spilled out when it opened. Constantine noted. Castile has been charging the glowstones in the walls below as we explored. You should just focus on using your ether on that device. If you start to get low, we will ascend. It seemed Constantine was in charge of the party over Adrian, which made sense since Constantine was the scout. Adrian said, annoyed. Of course. Constantine, we're just making runs to the wine vault. Okay, maybe Constantine just thought he was in charge. Maybe Constantine just wished he was in charge. Constantine paused to confront Adrian. Even if Castile's plan works, we still have to find the dungeon to survive the winter. The more specters Eric can send to the final rest every trip, the faster that will be. Adrian flexed a grip on his sword, and we all felt the tension between them. Instead of addressing Constantine, he turned to me to avoid a confrontation. Eric, let me know when you are too tired, or your ether gets too low to continue. I nodded, not wanting an argument to break out. I think Adrian's restraint was rooted in his knowledge of how the city was affecting him. We descended the stone stairs into a well-lit corridor with glowstones every 20 feet. A single small elf girl spectre wandered aimlessly in the center. Constantine walked forward and unceremoniously cut her down in a splash of sparks. Oh, I have missed this. It was odd how only his runic weapon seemed to produce those special effects. I had yet to see any other weapon do something as flashy. It's time for some more children slaying. Like, oh, another one. I got closer to where the spectre had dissipated. I aimed the kettle and channeled ether into it as I did with the collector. The purple smoke rushed toward the kettle and was consumed like a vacuum. A strange, cold wrongness pricked across my body. My breath was momentarily lost, like I had stepped outside into frigid air. The coldness permeated my lungs for just a breath. That's death, Eric. Castile had said it would feel slightly wrong, but that was a massive understatement. I had to wonder how high her ether tolerance was to feel just slightly wrong. Or she lied, just to make you fucking do it. Maybe her ether resistance had something to do with it. It felt like I was bathed in the creature's death aura as it was harvested. I shook the kettle to confirm it worked, and a small amount of the purple-black glittering sand was in the bottom. Adrian was waiting on me. It worked. How many of these did Castile do every day? I had no idea how she subjected herself to that feeling repeatedly. I was looking at Castile's toughness in a new light. This was going to be very unpleasant for me. Constantine answered. Over 100 every descent. Holy shit. How many can you manage with your ether, Eric? I examined my ether core. It didn't take a lot of ether, The backlash from using it was extremely intense. I don't know how she managed it so many times. Adrian gravely spoke with respect. She's a tough one. Just let us know when you need to ascend, Eric. As we walked the corridor, Brutus and Constantine were out front, Blaze at my side, and Adrian guarding the rear. There were dozens of large wooden doors lining the hallway. Constantine passed them all by without hesitation. 4 lone specters later, I almost felt like asking to return to the tower. My lungs ached like I had run a marathon, and my fingers were numb. Constantine stopped at the door, pushed it open slowly, and peeked inside. Clear. He entered, and we followed. Racks upon racks of wine bottles were present. Brutus was the most I have no idea what this word is. What? Okay. Flabbergasted. There has to be at least 10,000 bottles in here. More, Adrian answered. Eric, fill your space, and Blaze and I will fill our packs. I picked up a green glass bottle and brushed the dust off. Imprinted in the glass was a scene of an elf hunting a gnoll. I remembered Adrian said the gnolls were the mortal enemies of the elves or something like that. Each bottle was its own unique carved piece of artwork. Different colored glasses in innumerable scenes. Every once in a while, Constantine said a bottle I picked up was no good. His ability to detect if something was an organic poison was coming through, maybe? I added 24 bottles. Blaze had 10 wrap bottles in his backpack and Adrian had 11. Constantine and Brutus were not carrying packs as they were scouting ahead and needed to remain unencumbered. Adrian considered our next course of action. Constantine, we will swing by the children's shelter, clear it, and head back to the tower. Constantine, I need you to kill some more kids. Okay. Constantine nodded appreciatively and led the way. Appreciatively. It seemed we were heading back toward the tower, but I needed to spend more time in this unfamiliar underground maze to be sure. We descended a wide stairway into a large chamber lit by only a few glowstones. Hundreds of small skeletons were scattered across the room. Oh nay. We cleared this room of hundreds of specters, and now we usually find less than a dozen specters here every descent, Adrian informed the group. I scanned the room and could see only a single specter in the corner. A small boy, by the looks of it. Constantine had us wait for a good 20 minutes before walking confidently into the room. 20 minutes. 3 specters of children rose out of the floor to rush us, as did the boy. Constantine and Brutus dealt with them, and I completed my task with the kettle, wincing with each use. Constantine seemed pleased. Just 4 this time. That is a good sign. Leave it, Legionnaire, Adrian barked, startling everyone. Return to find Blaze sifting through the bones. We don't have time to loot the dead or the energy to carry the spoils unless it is a runic weapon. Blaze stood and dropped us a ring he had picked up. I mean, just fucking take it. The metal sounded louder than it should have on the stone. 4 adult specters emerged from the wall to the right, their faces twisted in a silent scream. Adrian yelled, "Back up the stairs! It may be a rush!" As we retreated up the stairs, Brutus asked, "What's a rush?" Well, can you not fucking... Maybe you used to think. What do you think it is, Brutus? If you had to guess. We took positions at the top of the stairs to fight the 4 specters. Once the 4 specters were dead, Adrian answered. Sometimes, something triggers a bunch of the specters to come at us at once. Usually, there is a poltergeist or 2 in the rush. Though we haven't seen a rush in the shelter in a while. After gathering the 4 specters' death essence with the kettle, I broke down a bit. Eric just starts bawling his tears. I can't do this anymore. Adrian, I think I'm done. I am shivering uncontrollably and have a pounding headache. Constantine frowned, clearly disappointed in me. That was, 13? This is not going to work, Adrian. We need Castile. I focused on Constantine and angrily said, "Can't you use ether as well, Constantine?" I held up the kettle, offering it to him. Constantine looked down at his runic weapon and then at the kettle of souls. "I need to keep swinging my blade. You should push your limit, Eric." Let's find one or two more wandering specters before heading back, he said, somehow sounding rational. Okay. It is up to you, Eric. I know Castile found the experience unpleasant, but I do not think there is a limit on how many times she could use it, Adrian said, deferring to me. I hesitantly nodded my consent. Wow, I love that they're like, oh, just tell us when you can't do it anymore, and then he does it, and they're like, nah, fuck you. It's like, what? 6 specters later, we were climbing the stairs to the tower. My body was racked with chills that never seemed to end. Firth was at the top of the stairs. About time you're back. We have 5 specters in the main library, and we have been subduing them, waiting for the kettle. I groaned, but turned around with just Constance and Adrian as support. After the library was cleared, I shivered uncontrollably as we walked back to the tower. I did not think I could do this every day. I had no idea how Castile managed this. Adrian put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You did good work today, Eric. Leave the wine and kettle in Castile's room. I will get you a double serving as tonight's feast." Castile was prone on the floor, eyes closed, on the bedroll in front of the fire, gripping the amulet. Delmar looked up from his chair. He was watching over her and tending the fire, still in the cock chair, is he? I placed the bottles from my dimensional space on the desk and the kettle while Delmar watched me. Watched him from his chair. Castile said she knew. Delmar said flatly. I did not know what he was referring to, so I just nodded slowly. You should go in there and bring her out. He motioned to Castile. My first thought was not a problem, but I would have preferred to Adrian to arrive first. I sat on the other side of Castile. I stalled. Adrian is bringing dinner. Right after I eat, I will retrieve Castile. Using the kettle takes a lot out of you. Delmar shrugged and took the fire poker to stir the coals and add a board. We sat in silence, and Adrian entered a few minutes later with both backpacks of wine bottles and a bowl. He handed me the bowl. Lurkin is stretching the ration bars. The men say the soup is not terrible. He looked at Castile on the floor and sat on another chair. He addressed Delmar. It went well. The spectres seemed to be thinning in the area we patrolled. Delmar replied. The scholar found a map of the city folded into one of the books. Right, he is with us. I forgot all about the scholar. Adrian immediately perked up. Delmar waved his hand dismissively. He found what he believes is the dungeon entrance, but it is on the other side of the city, just beyond the hearth tree. Of course, fuck. I was a little surprised by this great news. Damn it, really? Adrian bemoaned. I didn't understand what the problem was. Do you have any good news? Nope. We are out of healing potions and salves. Dante and Remus, frostbite is much worse. Oh shit, okay, they have frostbite. Might have to amputate their toes. I tried the soup and it reminded me of warm fig pudding. It was probably wishful thinking, but I kept the imagery up as I ate. Delmar and Adrian continued their conversation. Has she come out since we left? No, I was going to send in Eric to get her, Delmar responded flatly. I put down the empty bowl. Why is it bad news that we know where the dungeon is? Delmar shook his head like I was an idiot. It is fantastic news, Eric. He replied a little too harshly for my liking. It's just the fact that it's on the other side of a city infested with undead, and we'll be surviving off wine as we inch our way across, with half of us losing our minds in the process. Delmar was not an optimist. I think I will go check on Castile now, I said, sinking to the floor and touching the amulet. Yeah, fuck these two. Castile was studying one of her spellbooks on a couch in the entry room, looking very comfortable. She had a coffee table in front of her with an assortment of food and beverages. She looked up, surprised. Is everything okay? I vented my frustration. So, okay, I went down and they told me that I could stop whenever I want, and then I said I wanted to stop, and then they made me keep going, and then they yelled at me, and then I had to do it even more, and now they're angry. Other than Delmar being ready to snap, things are fine. Also, what the hell, Castile? The kettle of souls feels like it is sucking the soul out of me. Constantine is pushing me harder than ever before, and they found the location of the dungeon. Castile slowly closed the spellbook and looked me over. Do you feel better yelling that out loud? A bit, I admitted. I wasn't that off, I must say. I probably would not get any chances to yell at Castile in the real world. Using the Kettle of Souls works against your other tolerance, Eric. Your tolerance was 22 with the potential of 50, Castile recalled. I think so. I thought about it. Yeah. Then you should not have any trouble using it. I told you it would be unpleasant. You should also be able to train your other tolerance by using it, she said patiently. Delmar will hold it together. I will handle him if he falls too far. The sooner I learn this, she tapped the book, the better off we all will be. How is a spell called Nightmare going to help anyway? I asked, relaxing some as I waited for her to answer. What the fuck? Because then they can... Because everyone's mental will be much better, right? Isn't that the point? I decide what the nightmare is when I cast it. It is like a predetermined dream. It is intended to break a person's mind, but does not have to be used that way, she explained. It's a shimmering labyrinth where the scholar thought it was. No, it is not under the hearth tree, but it is close. Just on the other side of it, I relayed, and Castile winced. Well, at least we know where we're going now. Hopefully, the underground network has a path to it. As for Constantine, keep an eye on him. I think his elven runic weapon may be influencing him. Castile said indifferently, 100%. Nothing to be too concerned about at the moment. It was forged to kill the undead and may be encouraging him to fulfill its purpose, Castile explained. Adrian and Delmar already know how to keep an eye on Constantine. Anything else? Castile seemed so calm it was almost disturbing, knowing how dire our situation currently was. They sent me in here to get you out for a while, I said finally. Castile frowned. She tapped the spellbook. Tell them I will be out in 2 hours, and to have something ready to eat for me. I plan to come right back after eating. I hope to start practicing the ether weaves soon. This is really a remarkable space, Eric. Well, someone is fucking addicted. It is so easy to focus in here. I might be able to learn the spell in just a few days. She picked up something that looked like a cookie and munched on it. Seeing I had nothing else for her, she opened the spellbook and returned to studying. I felt like I was being abused a little bit. Then again, Castile had been the one using the Kettle of Souls repeatedly for days. This was her mini vacation at my expense. I exited the dreamscape and told Adrian and Delmar that Castile would be out in 2 hours. I also told them all they needed to do was remove the amulet from her body to wake her. There was no need to go inside the dreamscape to retrieve her. I returned to my room to find my roommate deep into their second bottle of wine. Maybe it was playing checkers with Constantine on my desk bed, and Matteo and Felix were clearly intoxicated. They offered me the residuals of a bottle, and I passed. Yeah, fuck that. I don't want any of that shit. Constantine was playing with the steel spheres I found in the desk. He was rolling them in one hand. Can I have my balls back? No, they're gonna make a dick joke, I know it. I asked Constantine as I held out my hand for them. Would you enjoy playing with them that much? Wow. Matteo and Felix looked up from the checkers board between them and were holding back their laughter. Constantine looked up, a single eyebrow arched. Did you know these balls are platinum, Eric? Ooh, platinum balls. Chapter 138. Elven Assessment. Constantine and Maeve continued playing checkers on the desk, preventing me from laying down. Constantine noted the spears in his hand. They appeared to be ingots for making rings. I continued holding out my hand for the balls. Constantine regretfully dropped them into my hand, and I sent them to my storage for safekeeping. I took my canteen and sat on the bench by the fire. The fire felt warmer and more invigorating than usual, so I scooted the bench closer. Platinum is very valuable, Eric, Maeve intoned as he cornered Constantine's last piece. Much more so than gold. Oi, it carries runic enchantments better than most metals and never tarnishes. Constantine nodded in agreement, frustration evident on his face from losing the game. He appraised me. How are you feeling? There was only a mild tone of concern in his tone, though more than I expected after our earlier interaction. With the balls? I held my hands closer to the fire, deciding what to admit. I did not want to appear weak, but Constantine would push me harder if I admitted I could manage it. I tossed the board on the fire. I managed today. The scholar found the dungeon location. By their lack of reaction, they already knew. Constantine nodded somberly. Yes, we're going to search for more runic weapons tomorrow. You are going to have to be able to do the thrice what you did today with the Kettle of Souls. Ouch. 60 at a minimum each day if we are going to reach the dungeon before we all die of starvation. Castile told me it would get easier the more I used it. Maybe not 60 tomorrow, but I will get there, I said confidently, though my body shook at the memory of using the bronze artifact. I hid my body's unease by stirring the coals. Matteo suddenly stood and rushed out of the room, having to take a squirt. He left the door open in his rush, and we cursed him for letting the heat out. Felix, close the door, Constantine ordered as they started another game of checkers. Last one made it. Eric needs his rest. Constantine winked at me like he was doing me a favor by giving me my bed. Wow. The next morning, I had to force myself to eat as my appetite was gone. Constantine gave me twice as much rice and beans as everyone else received. He then went to talk with the scholar. As breakfast ended, the men started on their daily tasks, Castile made an appearance, with Elmar and Adrian at her back. She looked pale and thin, but her eyes were bright, telling me her mind was sharp. She looked across the room slowly, making eye contact with everyone. We will be getting out of this. You're the strongest company in the Lion. I could promise you rewards beyond measure from the plunder of the city, but instead I want to affirm to each of you that your lives are more important. The undead will not break you. The cold will not break you, and the unseen summoner will not break you. Castile's passion was met with some nods, but a few still remained indifferent. I could see Adrian mentally noting who they were. Delmar rapped his knuckles on the shelf loudly. We are moving to the underground tomorrow. We have learned everything we needed to hear. That got whispers. Scholar Fabian looked around longingly at all the books he had not had a chance to study. Delmar continued. It will be warmer down there, and we will save time advancing through the city. We will be dressing back in full armor starting today. Get to your daily tasks, men. With that said, Adrian walked toward me and handed me the kettle. Constantine and I will be at your front today. Just Blaze at your back. Let us know when you need a rest. Gear up, Legionnaire, he said, with a pat on my shoulder. Putting on my armor again was almost surreal. It was like the set had been made for a giant. I had trouble getting everything to fit tightly. All because he's so thin. I was like, what the fuck is yours? I walked out into the communal area and noticed my elven dagger on Firth's belt. I approached the veteran, demanding my dagger back. Firth, you have a runic sword now. Give me back my dagger. Firth looked me over and drew the dagger. This is too pretty a weapon for you, Eric. He balanced the blade on his index finger and spun it, the blade and handle whirling. I have never handled such a perfectly weighed sticker. How much do you want for it? Oh my fucking god, fuck you. I'm not selling it, I said, holding on my hand. Firth considered me again and nodded slowly. He tossed, snatched, and sheathed the blade before handing it to me. It took me some time to secure the sheath on my belt, but soon I was ready. A few men nodded in appreciation at my reclamation of the runic dagger. Firth was a bit of a bully in the company. No shit, he sucks. Our armor clattered as we descended the stairs together. Normally, it had a rhythm to it, but not any longer with it being so loose. Blaze asked, why the armor now? Constantine answered him while adjusting his straps. In case we run into a wight wielding a weapon. Adrian contradicted it, Constantine. No. No. We are to secure the wine room this trip. I know we talked about looking for more runic weapons last night, but still thought the men needed to see us making progress toward a goal. Adrian replied evenly. Constantine looked ready to object, but nodded and continued to lead the way. It was more of a slow walk today, and we did not see any specters for a few minutes. Blaze asked, where do all the doors go? Some are more storerooms. Others lead up into other buildings in the city. Constantine paused at a door. This faded writing here says where the door leads. I took out my own glowing stone to examine the faded elven script on the stone. Some type of restaurant, I translated with my poor Elvish. Yeah, that's what it says. Some type of restaurant. Do you think they're open? Blaze asked seriously. I know it is early in the morning and all. He started to chuckle at his joke. So funny. We all started laughing. Okay, and Adrian chuckled. Well, if they're open, breakfast is on me. But that's good. It's good that they laugh. When things simmered down, Constantine gave a reality check. Well, laughing over. We only took one stairway up to the city. The building had collapsed on the stairs. But that did not stop 3 specters from coming through the rubble to greet us. We want to avoid triggering a rush from the city. If we stirred the city, it could have hundreds of specters after us. That sobered things up pretty quickly, and we continued on in silence. We encountered just 2 specters on the way to the wine room. Inside the wine room, Adrian ordered Constantine. I want you to go through every bottle and dump the toxic ones. Castile doesn't want anyone drinking them by mistake. That was how we spent our next 4 hours, dumping wine bottles down the drain after Constantine pulled them off the racks. After that, we searched a handful of nearby storerooms for specters before returning to the tower. I only harvested 9 specters all day and was greatly relieved at the fewer times I had to activate the kettle. As we climbed the stairs, the most divine smell in the world assaulted our noses. We rushed into the small library to find a bird spinning on our improvised spit. Men were talking energetically and keeping their eyes on it. I guessed what the bird was. Baby eagle? It was the size of a turkey, so it was definitely not one of the monstrous adults. Felix answered excitedly. Flavius got an owl that entered the main library. My stomach can't wait to make its acquaintance. How is the whole company gonna share an owl? They're gonna get like a finger, like the size of a finger bite each, no? It was most likely a scout. I mean, of course they would want it. I'm not saying like, oh, this is trash because it's small. I'm just saying it's like, that's sad, you know? It was most likely a scout controlled by the summoner, Delmar said from across the room. It saw us packing up from the window and wanted to know where we were planning to go. Delmar is correct. The summoner sent it, and I am certain it is not poison. He just made a slight error in his impatience. He has remained a few miles away, tired of waiting us out, Castile said neutrally, and sounded in control. The good news is he is too busy maintaining his hold over the storm elementals to summon anything else. Once we disappear into the Undercity, we may lose his focus. For some reason, I doubted Castile's optimism. Me too. Still, her counter to Delmar's pessimism brightened the mood. There was a lot less meat than it originally looked like. Everyone got an equal share, and no one complained. The feathers were stuffed into a small bag, and the bones were boiled, along with the feet, for breakfast broth the next day. The fresh meat, although somewhat acidic tasting, cheered everyone up. I made sure to lay on my desk before Maviot could start his nightly checkers tournament with Constantine. I needed to sleep, and after a few minutes of twisting and turning, I snuck myself an oblivion pillow in absence of the amulet. Constantine took pleasure in waking me from my deep sleep in the morning. Eric, he whispered next to my ear while snapping his fingers in my face. If I was a goblin, I would have stabbed you 5 times already. I slapped away his hand and sat up. Just as I had guessed, the non-magical oblivion pills did not seem to give me restful sleep in the city. A thought crossed my mind. Are goblins edible? I asked, remembering I had one of the creatures in my dimensional storage. Oh my god, this child! Maybe it answered from the floor, where he was packing. They probably taste worse than the owl from last night, but I do not think they are poisonous. I nodded, thinking that tiny creature had to be at least 40 pounds. Maybe I could release it and pretend it wandered into the city. Yeah, sure, that's gonna fly. With everyone moving out of the tower, it meant Castile could handle the kettle duties today. I hesitated in the room, being the last to leave the small library. I looked longingly at the large black desk. Not only was it a piece of artwork, but it was a good bed. I checked outside the door. Don't take it. I checked outside the door and then stored the large desk. Okay. When are you gonna use this? The top was 3 by 7 feet, and the height was about 2 feet tall, and it might serve as a good obstruction or future workbench for me. Where? I caught up with everyone and walked next to Castile, who handed me the Kettle of Souls, so she could practice her ether shaping of the nightmare spell. So much for a break for myself. She was not much of a conversationalist today, fully concentrating on learning the spell as quickly as possible. We only encountered a single spectre on the way to the wine vault, and I used the kettle to deal with it. She still has the amulet, by the way. When the doors opened, everyone who had not seen it yet gasped and gawked while walking stupidly among the rags. Delmar issued his proclamation. No one drinks without permission. I will assign you all sleeping locations. We piss in the drain and shit in the storeroom across the hall in pairs. That is right. His voice rose to a command. No one shits alone. Oh no. Well, that's not pleasant. It took a few hours to settle in, as Delmar was in charge of camp setup. It helped him direct some of his increasingly aggressive nature productively. Adrian assigned the guard duties, of which I had none. Constantine pulled on my armor. Come on, Eric. No one shits alone. Oh my god. Maybe it stood. I have not taken a shit in 3 days. I think I might have to. Fine, you can come too. Could use a brute, Constantine said, irritated. I could already tell we were not going for shit. In the hallway, Constantine went left and walked rapidly while we followed. I don't have the Kettle of Souls, I warned him. He looked to be on the hunt for more specters, or maybe his blade was driving him to hunt. This is so fucked. It is fine. It is just a few doors down, he explained as he continued walking. He paused at a door, studied it, and opened it. We followed him inside, and on the other side of the room were heavy bunk beds. Thick dust from deteriorated mattresses covered them, but this could be a game changer. Too heavy to haul up into the tower, but 40 feet down the hall, I think that is manageable. Okay, whew. It wasn't some fucked suicide game. Maviet and I wrestled the first one out of the door, while Constantine watched for specters. My fatigued and emaciated muscles could not match Maviet's, so we made quite a racket getting the first one into the wine room. There were 8 bunks for 16 beds in total, and soon the whole company was helping. It was the most animated I had seen Delmar in a long time. We moved wine bottles and took down racks to make room. Delmar thought the wine room was more defensible than the small room from which we took the beds. The next small room with bunks was too far away to haul back, but we could sleep in shifts. Everyone was covered in filth when we were done, but the sense of accomplishment was high in the company. Some of the soldiers were actually smiling and making jokes to one another. The only unhappy person was Scholar Fabian, due to the fact that he was only able to carry 10 of his priceless books from the tower. We were allotted a little more wine than we probably should have had that evening. I noted that Adrian and Delmar didn't drink, and remained on watch with Castile using the amulet. We were in a new phase of our exploration of the ruins, but the clock was still running on us. We had already been too many days in Kaelora, sustaining ourselves an extraordinary little. Living off calories from wine was not going to be very pleasant. The move had abated some of the depression, but it would soon return. For the next 3 days, 3 days already, Adrian, Brutus, Constantine, Matteo, and Blaze guarded me as we started to explore the heart tree and thin the specters in preparation for finding the dungeon. Blaze got knocked out when a poltergeist threw a heavy ceramic bowl at his head from behind. But we did well other than that one injury. I was up to between 40 and 45 specters in the morning, and another 25 or so in the afternoon as we slowly explored new areas. We were also searching rooms Constantine had not searched previously. One interesting room had a familiar device, an assessment tablet. What? But it was a modest table, similar to the one I used in the capital of the Adventurers Guild. It was also much fancier, with finer wood and decorative carvings, and the language was clearly Elvish, and I cleared the dust off, and took it into your space for everyone to see. Leave it. It is useless anyway, as it is artificed for the elven people. Constantine advised, leaving the room without giving it another thought. However, it had all the attributes and 21 magic affinities on the table. Even if it gave skewed results, It was probably worth something. Constantine called from the corridor. We should head back anyway. This corridor is heading away from the heart tree. I did not know how he knew that, but I was sure he would explain it in excruciating detail later if I didn't ask. I made sure I was the last one. Oh my god, he's taking the fucking table. How many tables are you gonna have? He's so much more like, what is it called? Less careful now with like showing off his space. Because if someone goes in there, like so many people have seen. Anyway. I made sure I was the last one out of the room and sent the entire assessment table into my dimensional storage. I was only about 3 by 5 feet, and the height was similar to the black desk I had stored a week earlier. I still had a lot of space if I got creative. Tetris. We got even better news when we returned to the wine vault. Castile had successfully learned the nightmare spell. Holy shit. I was thrilled, as it meant that hopefully I would get my amulet back soon and no longer have to carry the kettle. The city was beginning to affect me like the others. Ooh, okay. Chapter 139. The White Problem. Castile used her nightmare spell on 7 men, including Lamar, to start. They were in the worst shape, with sunken dark eyes and the worst dispositions. It was to be a 12-hour sleep on the bunks for them, trapped in some dream Castile imagined. Everyone nervously watched as Castile forced man after man into a deep sleep. When Castile was finished, she sat on her bunk bed alone, clearly drained from her efforts. I took the opportunity to talk with her and sat next to her. I asked, "What are they dreaming about?" Castile looked around at the sleeping men. They are building houses. The spell required a task and environment when casting, so I put them on a grassy plain, and they are cutting and stacking sod to build a house. It was what I remembered from where I grew up. No monsters, just endless therapeutic labor with a loving family encouraging them. Well, that's nice. I nodded, thinking that was not too bad of a nightmare. I had certainly had much worse. So, will you be joining the exploration team now? Castile had a small knife out. Okay. And was cleaning under her filthy fingernails. Yes, I will be going out. She knew why I was there. Castile fingered the amulet around her neck absently, but did not offer it to me. Just like the fucking ring. When she did not offer it back, I asked, "Can I have that back?" Oh, I didn't even know I still had it. I did not think she heard me, so I was about to ask again when she spoke. I would like to keep using it. Of course you will, she said softly, and my stomach turned over, a cold chill spreading through my body. She quickly added, I think we can run 2 exploration teams. One will be led by me and the other by you. While you are out, I would like to use your amulet. When you return, wake me and you can have it. That sounded completely reasonable. I agree. As my mage commander, she probably could have just kept it, even though she recognized it as my property. I think that is acceptable. Are you going to learn another spell? Castile held the amulet again, studying it longingly, not answering for a time. For me, a single day studying in the amulet is like a week. I could learn every spell I ever tried to study and failed. You do not realize what a treasure it truly is. Her tone was slightly accusatory and had some jealousy in it. Realizing she may have crossed the line, she added, It is yours, Eric. Perhaps I have become a little addicted to it. She removed the Dreamscape amulet and handed it to me. She added, unconvincingly, Perhaps a few days apart from it would do me good. Castile stood and walked away to talk with Constantine. After an hour's discussion, she announced to everyone not sleeping. Adrian, Brutus, Blaze, and Matteo, you are with me for a spectre harvest. Castile snatched a kettle and marched for the door while they scrambled to follow. I moved over to sit with Maviet, who was sorting wine bottles with Constantine at a table. Surprised she didn't take you, I noted, and Constantine looked up. We just returned an hour ago, Eric. Castile decided the second team would be you, Flavius, Delmar, Firth, Benito, and me. Firth. Blech. Constantine revealed with a fox smile. Damn, she got to pick all the cool kids, I said gruffly. Maviet failed to understand. I think everyone is pretty cold, Eric. But it is warmer under the city than in the tower. Constantine cackled a laugh. I think Eric is saying that he wishes he got to choose his own team. I am actually quite hurt you would not want me on your team. I do not know why I said it. I think it was probably because it had been a few days since I got some real sleep, and my mind felt frayed and exhausted. Constantine, you're reckless. Oh, he's actually okay. You chase every damn specter you see, regardless of whether it is safe for the rest of us or not. Of course, I don't want to explore the tunnels with you. Oi. I had yelled that a little too loudly, and a number of men overheard. All the attention in the wine vault was on us now. Oh, Eric. Oh, yeah. Ha. Okay. Constantine placed two bottles he had been holding on the table and looked me in the eyes, and I met his stare defiantly. Our eyes studied each other. He leaned in. He grabbed my shin. He said softly. Softly. You are right, Eric. I have been reckless. I exhaled. It's a relief. But we are running out of time. He reflexively touched the pommel of his runic weapon. So, it is not your weapon driving you, I accused him, getting bolder. Constantine's hand caressed the hilt while studying my face. Wow. He admitted. It does reward me with a euphoric rush when I cut down a specter. Ah, so Constantine is a fucking druggie. But it is not controlling me. Sure. My mouth opened to reply, and then I shut it. Constantine was an addict and did not even realize it. Yeah. Perhaps you should loan your runic weapon to another Constantine. My suggestion was met with harsh eyes. I remembered that Constantine had also recklessly pursued the summoner to reclaim this blade. I was not sure how he did not see that he was beholden to the weapon. Yeah, that's crazy, actually. I decided not to press further. Yeah, that's clever. I walked over to Scholar Fabian to see about continuing my education in the Elven tongue. After an hour, I decided to get some rest. My mind had its fill of new vocabulary and listening to the scholar's voice. I went to an open bunk and lay down, leaving Constantine and Mavieth. I had the amulet, and I wanted to get some actual rest. I entered the dreamscape and found the entry room filled with living room furniture and an entire kitchen. The bookshelf I had left for Castile was now full of books as well. I mumbled to myself. Castile, you have been a busy woman and made yourself at home. I think it's more she made herself at home. Like she's like, I want to live here. I flipped through each one of the books she left behind on the bookshelf and made a copy of the complete set. I then walked down to the scorpion room. Castile did not appear to have spent any time fighting the creatures of the dungeon. Either that or she reset them after she had killed them. After a quick inspection, it seemed that my secret room was undisturbed. I then set my copy of the books into my secret room and left, closing it behind me. Is that where Oscar is? Oscar rushed me and jumped into my arms to lick my face. It took me a moment to realize that that was what I wanted. Some puppy therapy. Oh. Constantine studied me with steel blue eyes. You locked us all away here like prisoners. Are you going to let us out now? I ignored his comment. Did Castile stop by and say hello? I asked the group. Maybe its sister Serana spoke for the group. She didn't find us. Is that what you were asking? She did come into the scorpion chamber once though. She fought it and returned it back to normal. Thanks for telling me, Serana. I looked at the assortment of people and the Goliaths. Well, let's practice some fighting tonight. Xavier, the sword master, eagerly drew his blade and stood from the poker table. Adrian was not far behind him. Maybe it stood protectively next to his sister, resting his club on his shoulder. Blaze was the only one who did not look thrilled at the idea of weapons practicing in the group, preferring the bow. Oscar excitedly barked as I removed the wall, and we battled on the sand in the scorpion room. I spent 8 hours inside the dreamscape, and my perception of the world was different when I exited. It had felt filtered before, and now it was clear. The targets of Castile's nightmare spell were still in their forced sleep. Castile's group had not returned yet from their culling of specters, and the men were getting anxious. Constantine approached me. I think I should go look for them. You need to stay here as you have a runic weapon to protect the others. The door suddenly opened, causing everyone to relax visibly as Castile entered with the others. We encountered another white, Adrian announced. It had a runic weapon. He tossed a sheathed short blade to Benito, who eagerly caught it. Hell yeah, Benito! Castile also had good news. That was good news. Oh, well, not that they encountered a white, but that they got a runic weapon. We found passages blocked with roots, large enough that it can only be the Hearth Tree. We're getting closer to where the dungeon must be. We just have to find a way around the tree. Adrian balanced the news. The roots have blocked and weakened some of the passages. One path was only completely blocked with snow, so it collapsed from the city above. Everyone understood that meant it was exposed to the city above. Well, yes. Surprisingly, Scholar Fabian stood and said, I would like to go on the next exploration. I'm not doing much good here. Maybe I can help by reading the elven engravings. It was true the scholar was not of much use to us anymore. He had been quiet. He's the first one that they're like, can we eat him? He had been quiet, studying his books, and maybe he figured the small allocation of food we used on him might be withheld soon. Almost all our solid rations were gone, and we were pretty much drinking our calories from the wine. Castile considered the scholar and handed me the kettle of souls. Eric is leaving soon. You can go with this group, scholar. Her voice dropped so only I could hear. Just eliminate as many specters as you can and return. We will all go together tomorrow. We are close, Eric. She said reassuringly, and even cracked a smile on her thin face. Now give me the fucking amulet. I started getting ready and heard Benito ask while looking at his new weapon, which was shaped like a long slender leaf rounding out the last 2/3. Why do only the whites have runic weapons? Because they're cool. Adrian patiently answered him. They are smarter than normal undead. They may not have wielded a runic weapon in life, but have wandered the city long enough to find one and know what it is and how powerful they are. How many whites are in the city? Benito asked, causing everyone to still, creating a silence to listen to Adrian's answer. How the fuck is he supposed to know? Adrian looked to Castile, who gave him a nod, which I assumed was the go-ahead to answer truthfully. We think there are dozens in the city above. In the Undercity, we do not think there are many. Everyone relaxed some at the news and continued their tasks. So the nod was to lie. No, I'm joking. Before we left, I spent time with Adrian, Castile, and Constantine as they discussed the direction they had traveled and where they found the passages that were blocked with roots. Constantine was leading my team, as I was just a kettle bearer. Castile cycled the sleepers under his spell. Those waking up were exhausted, but you could already tell they were in better shape mentally with their comments and liveliness. Delmar was barely speaking to anyone and moved languidly, probably realizing what an ass he had been for weeks. All right. Now he's sober. He's like, I'm sorry. Firth, Delmar, and Constantine led my group. Firth was also waking up from his first deep sleep. He was more animated than Delmar as he talked. It felt like I had a foot in Pluto's realm and didn't even realize it, he told Constantine as we walked. I walked next to Scholar Fabian in the middle, who was trying to read every door we passed. The ancient elvish writing had faded or flaked off, so we did not have much success. Behind me were Flavius and Benito, protecting our rear. We all followed Constantine as he knew exactly where he was leading us. Our job was to just clear the specters and return. We only encountered lone specters as we moved into an unfamiliar part of the Undercity. We also reached a section where Castile had not charged any glowstones, and everyone took theirs out. Constantine faced the group at this point. This is as far as they got. We're going to return to the wine vault and search side rooms as we go. Everyone was tense as we turned around. We had only found 7 specters so far today. After inspecting the first floor, Scholar Fabian informed the group. It is a cobbler's room. Inside was a large workshop with 3 specters. The shoes had all since rotted away, and we quickly finished off the specters. Why do they need a shoe store under the city? Benito asked after we finished clearing the room. The scholar answered. They were prepared for a long siege by the Legion. They were prepared to live under the city for years. We must be under the merchant quarter. This city used to be home to some of the greatest artisans in the world. They would not stop doing their professions even if a war were raging around them. We continued opening doors but skipped doors that led up to the city. Every time we were rewarded with 1 to 4 specters inside. It was as the scholar had said. These were the specters of the artisans. The spectral clothes they wore were fancy and fashionable. Color Fabian suddenly got excited at the 9th door. It is a weaponsmith. There must be a forge on the other side of this door. Delmar looked at Constantine, and they both looked like kids about to raid a candy store. Constantine repeated the same thing he had for each of the Constantine repeated the same thing he had for each of the last few entries. I will go first. Delmar will go left. Firth will go right after me. Don't get distracted. Cut down the specters quickly so Eric can use the kettle. Constantine tried to open the door, but it didn't budge. The moisture in this part of the city had rotted the door somewhat. Delmar and Constantine worked together, and they were able to pry it off the hinges with a lot of effort. Constantine rushed and shouldered the door. The door spun, freed from its prison, and slammed into the ground inside the forge room, causing a thick cloud of dust, made worse as the glowstones illuminated the particles. The thick cloud of dust caused zero visibility. Constantine held out his blade as he entered the room with Delmar and Firth. Does anyone see any specters? Delmar said through coughing fits. I don't see anything, Benito replied from beside me. A body was thrown out of the room and slammed into me, knocking me into the wall in the corridor. It was Firth, who looked broken and choked out a warning. White! Where? Constantine's voice echoed in the dust cloud from inside the forge room. A figure rushed toward me from the dust, and I erected an air shield in front of me. The emaciated elf crashed into my air shield, just a foot from my face. It looked like a zombie elf, its gray skin stretched tight over its bones. Firth was trying to stand but struggling. Delmar screamed in obvious pain. I have specters in the forge. I need help in here. Constantine yelled, frustrated as I could see flashes of his own sword through the dust cloud. Where is the white? My black blade stabbed forward into the stomach of the white, but it just pressed forward, trapping my blade. It screamed a raspy, angry yell at me. In the corridor, I shouted. Benito attacked, and the white punched him in the chest, tossing him sprawling back down the corridor. An arrow suddenly protruded from the neck of the white. The white swiped at my air shield, shattered it without difficulty. His clawed hands then left deep gouges on my armor. Constantine rushed out of the dust cloud and hacked into the neck of the white. Instead of sparks, the blade hissed and steamed as he connected. I could not extract my black blade, so I drew the elven dagger and stabbed the white in the eye. It suddenly paused in its attack, looking confused. Constantine hacked the other side of its neck, freeing its hand from its body. The dust was clearing, but Delmar was still screaming for help. Use the kettle, Eric! Constantine yelled as he dashed back into the room to help Delmar. The dust was clearing, but not fast enough. I aimed the kettle and channeled ether into it. A thick purple smoke came from the corpse of the white, and it felt almost like a brief tug of war as it resisted a final death. It finally succumbed to the bronze kettle, and a palpable relief escaped me. I turned my attention to Firth, who was moaning in pain, one arm clearly broken. Oh, fuck. I'm fine. Help the others. Wait, it was Firth, right? I don't care. He pushed me away with his good arm. Flavius rushed into the room as the dust was clearing. I entered after him. The forge room was large, and its expanse briefly took me aback. Easily 200 feet deep. Delmar was on the ground to the left. He was no longer screaming for help. Why? Constantine was swinging wildly at 4 specters around him, sparks flying with every swing of the blade. Eric, use the kettle! There were at least 9 specters, maybe more if Delmar killed some. Constantine sounded frantic and worried. I used the kettle and it eventually pulled 11 specters into it. With the room now clear, we all stood over Delmar. His scraggly bearded face was pale white, and his eyes looked vacant as they stared up at nothing. Damn it, he was definitely dead. Holy shit, Delmar died? What? What the fuck? Hello, Kate. Glad to see you alive. Yes, thank you. But Delmar is dead. Holy shit, Delmar died. Okay. Benito was to my right and asked that exact question. Is he dead? Is he going to turn into a specter? Constantine let out a long, disgruntled sigh. Yes. Oh, okay. Wow. That just happened. Okay. Chapter 140. Morning. Constantine stood over Delmar, studying the Legionnaire's body, and then said with remorse, "Did anyone else get hit by the specters or White?" Firth, cradling his broken arm, replied, "The White broke my arm." Constantine moved to stand in front of Firth, examining him closely. "Well, guess you have to die too." "Just the one injury? Do you feel any different?" "My fucking arm is broken, Constantine. Of course I feel fucking different," Firth yelled, spittle flying from his mouth. "Shut the fuck up, Firth." "Eric, cut off Delmar's head and use the kettle on him." "Wow." Constantine barked at me while we were all still in a daze. I looked at Delmar's corpse, not fully processing the request. "What?" "His spirit is going to turn into a specter. You can prevent that before it happens," Constantine yelled, his anger bleeding out. He kicked over a rack of swords, the violence and noise seeming therapeutic for him. "Well, fucking you do it then. Just do it then." I walked to the body and readied my black blade, but it felt wrong to cut off Delmar's head, so I hesitated. Constantine stormed over and used his own runic blade to complete the task, steam hissing up as he did so. I fumbled for the kettle and used it. A purple haze flowed from Delmar's neck and head into the kettle, proving he had been turning. But it still did not make me feel any better. Yeah, what the fuck? Benito was walking around the room, looking at all the various weapons. I think he was having trouble dealing with Delmar's death and was seeking a distraction. I went to the wall and charged the embedded glowstones to illuminate the massive forging chamber. There were a number of workstations and anvils throughout the room. Benito asked weakly, "Who is going to tell Castile?" "I don't think it matters who does it." I don't really think it matters. There was silence as we all looked around. Constantine finally voiced, "It will be me. His death was my fault." No one argued with him as we continued our search. Yeah. Benito seemed mollified that it would not be him and asked while clearing the dust off some short blades, "Are any of these runic weapons?" Scholar Fabian was searching with us. I forgot that he was there. What has he just witnessed? "Most likely no. Clean off the dust and there's a chance if they have no rust." I started searching with everyone else. It gave us something to distract us from Delmar's body. I noticed Flavius pick up Delmar's runic blade. It was an extremely valuable dungeon blade, but no one stopped him. Every blade and axe I checked was tarnished with rust under the jacket of dust. It felt like Delmar had given his life for no reason. There were hundreds of weapons here, all artistic works that needed to be cleaned and oiled, but nothing was free of tarnish. "Got one!" An excited Benito called from near the forges. We all rushed over to find Benito cleaning something that looked closer to a sledgehammer than a weapon. The head of the sledgehammer had been cleaned off and looked like liquid mercury in the light of the glowstones. Scholar Fabian quickly assessed it. Definitely an artifice hammer, but I think it is designed for metalworking and not fighting. He handed it around and I realized how heavy it was when it got to me. The head alone was probably over 5 pounds, and the shaft added to the weight with rich black wood. Constantine said what I had been thinking. "The Goliath can use that. He can be of some help with the specters." Hell yeah. We continued to search the room and started stacking the weapons in the center so we would not go over them more than once. We made 4 stacks, one for daggers, one for short swords, one for long swords, and one for axes. The spears we found we leaned against the wall. We were interrupted twice by wandering specters, but eventually searched the entire room. Constantine was the most upset of all of us. I think he wanted to find something more substantial so Delmar's death would not be in vain. We found 3 runic daggers. Wow! And a second, smaller runic forge hammer among the bones of the fallen smiths, bringing the total to 4 more runic weapons added to the company and a sledgehammer from Aviath. Isn't that fucking insane? Like, that's great. Like, runic weapons, aren't they like super rare and now they just like have 5? We left the room and began to walk back to the wine vault. Constantine led us, but did not drag his feet. When we reached the room, he marched right up to Castile and told her what happened. That bar is dead. I went to Mavius, who was playing checkers with Remus. Eric, how did your exploration go? The Goliath asked while studying the board. Delmar is dead, I said plainly, and Remus' red mop of hair looked up in surprise. That is impossible, Remus muttered as he stood and went to spread the news. Well, I sat across from Maviat and passed him the large runic sledgehammer. This is for you, Maviat. It is a runic weapon, not designed for fighting, but it should be good enough to bash some specters. The Goliath took the hammer and caressed the thick black shaft and the silvery head. It is an impressive hammer, Eric. How did Delmar meet his fate? He leaned the sledgehammer against the table, focusing on me. I looked around the room as Remus spread the word. We found a forge, an armory of sorts. We bashed down the door, and a wight attacked us in the confusion as dust blocked the light. There were another 11 specters in the room, and Delmar had to fight alone for a period while we dealt with the wight. We didn't know he was fighting so many. He was overwhelmed before we could assist. Castile was pacing further in the wine vault as Constantine had finished telling her. The entire company also heard the news, and the mood was extremely heavy. Flavius was handing out the runic daggers and a small hammer to those who did not have a runic weapon yet. Everyone who had been sleeping was soon awake as we waited on Castile. I approached to see if I could help. Castile's face was hard as she walked back and forth between the wine racks. Constantine and Adrian stood nearby, waiting for Castile to vent. She continued to pace for minutes before finally looking up, her face hard. She located Adrian and asked, "Who is the best man to take over for Delmar?" Adrian swallowed hard. I assumed Delmar and Adrian were friends. They only ever really talked with each other. Adrian offered names. Lurkin, Linus, or Eric. Lurkin has been with us the longest. I was taken by surprise at the mention of my name. We all looked at Castile. Lurkin was the company cook, Linus was our medic, and I was the porter. Castile considered the advice and then looked at me. Eric, do you want the job? Of course. Adrian nodded at me, indicating I should accept it. Yes, I will take over for Delmar. Holy shit. Castile pushed forward through her apparent grief. Constantine, thank you for letting me know. Adrian and Eric, let us discuss what we will do now. Constantine still looked guilty but left us. I moved in close with Adrian. Castile announced, "We need to move out tomorrow." Adrian agreed. The men are going to be reeling from Delmar's loss. If we are moving, they cannot dwell on it. We have been lucky only to lose 2 men so far. What about food and water? I asked, knowing the water canteens needed to be refilled from snow soon. We cannot live off the wine alone. We should melt snow first. Adrian spoke. Agreed. I will get teams to fill up some backpacks to melt snow tonight. It should take 3 trips to fill everyone's canteens. Castile's hand was shaking slightly as she voiced a question. Should we attempt to leave the city and confront the summoner, or continue our search for the dungeon? Ooh. This was obviously not the first time they had discussed this. Adrian gave his viewpoint. I don't remember why the dungeon is going to help them out. Like, what is the dungeon going to do? Or is it that they hope to get something from the dungeon to kill the fucking... Or, wait, no, no. The dungeon is their goal. Isn't it? Yeah, right. The dungeon is their goal. That's why they came here, right? I think so. To find the lost dungeon. So the dungeon is important. But the summoner is stopping them from getting to the dungeon. But now they're kind of getting to the dungeon anyway. Okay. I know that they got trapped there fleeing the mage, but didn't... Because we already knew... I don't remember why they went out in the first place. I know they weren't going to the city, though. That's true. Why the fuck? Because we knew that there was a secret dungeon. It's like, oh, no one has found this dungeon. But they say that there is a dungeon here, and the fucking emperor is like, don't touch a dungeon. Oh, okay. Okay. Why the fuck were they leaving in the first place? Where were they going? What were they supposed to do? That I don't remember. Like why they left the Veronica's city at all. The Duchess. Why they left the town. Yeah, not important now. This was obviously not the first time they discussed this. Adrian gave his viewpoint. The snow is too deep to move effectively out of the city and beyond. We cannot surprise him, and we will have time to prepare for us. Even though I dislike dungeons, I think it is our best course of action to continue our search for it. They looked to me as part of this exercise. Apparently, I was supposed to offer an opinion and a reason for it. If we do make it into the dungeon, we may be trapping ourselves there. The exit may be congested with specters and wights. Adrian nodded in agreement. We could draw hundreds of specters to the dungeon entrance. What if only 6 of us can enter? The rest will be mobbed. Oh, that's true. Scholar Fabian had been edging closer and was close enough to overhear the conversation. Dude, this is a private conversation. He approached us. I do not think we will need to worry. The Shimmering Labyrinth has no limit on the number of adventurers that can enter. Ooh! Castile looked displeased. What have you found out? What have you not told me? Scholar Fabian winced at her sharp accusation. I do not know how accurate their information is. It is from one of the children's books I found about the dungeon. Why is there a children's book about a dungeon? It describes the first floor as a stone maze. Everyone who enters is randomly placed within the maze. Oh, that's fun. Adrian said in disbelief. I have never heard of a dungeon that separates the delvers. That is because I think it is a solo dungeon. You can meet up with others once inside and work together. The good news is that it appears there are many exits, and it is not difficult to leave the dungeon. The scholar offered the book in question to Castile. Castile opened the book, and Adrian looked over her right shoulder, so I looked over her left. There were some faded pictures, and the scholar described the book. It is a tale of an elven princess who wants to be an adventurer. She sneaks into the Shimmering Labyrinth to prove herself to her father. There could be a lot of embellishment, Castile voiced skeptically as he paged through the children's book delicately, careful not to degrade the ancient book further. She was interested in the pictures. Each picture was a faded watercolor and had the heroine fighting a different monster. I noted the monsters pictured. There were many spiders of various varied sizes and colors, including a black bear and a massive white bear. Polar bear? The scholar took the book back. It is a child's tale, but there should be threads of truth in it. It is also the only book I have found that directly describes what to expect in the dungeon. Castile looked old, and her hair had streaks of grey in it. Random. Random. Do you still have the recipe book too? Yes, I also brought that one with me, Scholar Fabian affirmed. We will make our way to the Heart Tree tomorrow and try to find a way around it. Will the dungeon be above or below? Castile asked resignedly. The scholar did not have a definitive answer, but with a hesitant look offered his best guess. I believe it is below ground. The Elven King tried to hide its existence from outsiders and seems to have been successful for the most part. Castile nodded, committed to continuing the search for the dungeon. She addressed everyone in the room. Delmar was a great legionnaire. He knew exactly what each and every one of you needed and how much you could carry. His knowledge and skill with this sword will be sorely missed. Sorry, but I'm laughing because, like, Delmar was great. Dude, he had such a skill for knowing exactly how much of you can lift. It's like, what? You should know that yourselves already. Like, is that such a... I mean, of course, it's a nice skill to have, I guess, but is that really the best he could do? Then with his sword skills, that I understand will be missed. It was just funny how she's like, oh fuck, he knew, he could just look at you and he's like, you can bench 80, you know? Like, what the fuck? Flavius Delmar Flavius. Delmar would have wanted Adrian to carry the blade. Flavius walked forward, and the two of them exchanged runic weapons. Flavius took the borrowed blade the Duchess had secured for the expedition. I was just gonna bring this up. That I feel like, because they did do an expedition. They were supposed to go somewhere. I don't remember what. But they knew that they needed the runic weapons for it. So it was something like they were gonna clear the city or some shit, but they weren't supposed to go into the city. They were supposed to go further, and then they had to go back and be like, fuck it, we have to go into the city because of the fucking elemental. So it was still something to do with specters. Was it to because they were there's a road, like the trading route. There was something about a trading route. I know, and they did bring the scholar. Yeah, I feel like I was confused when they went in the city as well. I was like, isn't this where they were supposed to go? Like, but yeah. Anyway. Secure for the expedition, yeah. After the ceremonial exchange, Castile continued. We're close to the dungeon. In 8 hours, we will push together in search of it. We will be able to find food inside, and the summoner will not know where we went. Okay. Castile's speech was not as motivating as I thought it could be in the aftermath of Delmar's loss. She also did not tell the company that the dungeon might separate us when we entered. I was left to coordinate the snow retrieval teams with Adrian to fill everyone's canteens. I also had to ensure each man securely packed 6 bottles of wine in their packs. Being in charge of logistics meant I now had much less free time and had to babysit the men who were too lazy to remain prepared. It made me appreciate Delmar more. Oh. I also saw how much solid food we had left in Lurkin's pack. It was just enough to feed everyone a single full meal. Lurkin planned to stretch it for 3 days, and then we would subsist entirely on wine afterward. As we left the wine vault, there were still thousands of bottles there if we needed to come back and replenish our supply. Too many of the men were dealing with daily cramps and muscle pains from slow starvation. I agreed entering the dungeon was our best course of action. Yep. We were too feeble to fight our way out of the city. I was in the middle of the group with Castile, who frequently went forward to capture a spectre. I was glad I did not have to use the kettle. We quickly moved through the underground network, Constantine leading us. When we reached the room where Delmar rested, Castile went in and covered his body with his sleeping roll. She paid a few private words, and then offered the men a chance to take any weapons they wanted from the piles we had made during our previous visit. Even though they were not runic weapons, the quality was far superior to our Legion-issued gear. I picked through the daggers and hand axes, adding a dozen of each to my storage. No one was paying much attention to me, and I figured they could eventually be cleaned and sold. I also took one of the elven spears. If we found another white, I would prefer to be able to hold it at a range. The claw marks on my armor were a terrible reminder of the encounter. We quickly found the passages blocked by the heart tree's gnarled roots when we headed out. The roots blocked the passage and even went through the stone floor to the lower level and down to the sewers. Castile determined cutting through the mess would take too much energy and time. We started making our way to the right, trying to follow the roots. We constantly had to backtrack and seek a wider route around, but we were making progress circumnavigating the tree. Things got a little dicey when we caused a rush of over 50 specters and poltergeists when we entered a wide corridor. We had to cycle men to the front, and Castile got extremely busy with the Kettle of Souls. Our large group even had to deal with specters coming from behind the walls. During the rush, maybe it was a monster with his new runic sledgehammer. Where it took multiple strikes from a runic sword to dissipate the specter, maybe its heavy hammer blow always took them out in one. We proceeded even slower after that rush. Firth was the only legionnaire who was too injured to help in the fighting. His dominant sword arm broken and in a sling. Right. Everyone was exhausted after hours of walking and fighting in the underground complex. The complex never seemed to end. It really appeared as if we were never going to get to the fabled dungeon. Scholar Fabian got Castile's attention. Mage Castile, this door goes up to the city. She gave him an impatient look to get to the point. The scholar wiped the coating of dust to read the elven script. It goes to the elven barracks that I think. Now, I am not too certain, but this barracks, or maybe Delver Hall, was in charge of guarding the entrance to the dungeon. Ooh. The entire company was suddenly silent. All eyes turned to Castile for direction on what we should do next. Okay, so next time it will be dungeon time. Hell yeah. I thought it would be this time, but no. But a lot happened today as well. Holy shit. And I can't believe Delmar just died. They just killed Delmar. Delmar just poofed. That's crazy. Yup. But we will get some dungeon action next time.